Some say Chinese is one of the most difficult languages in the world, and learning it is almost impossible.
So learning Chinese, the most difficult thing.
非常难.
So I'm sort of tone deaf. I can't really hear them.
I think the cultural mindset is the biggest complication for
The
us.
grammar.
知吃思诗都很难
It's just complicated so much.
Only because you're not learning it in the right way. Why not try Takeaway Chinese, where you can take some Chinese away and experience progress day by day. Takeaway Chinese, we will promise you a difference.
你好，欢迎收听随行汉语 Welcome to Takeaway Chinese. I'm Feifei and joining me today is our Tony Reed. Hello, Tony.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? TJ Reed in the studio with Feifei, and we are going to talk about hopefully something interesting today.
Yeah, we have something very, very interesting, Tony. You know, apart from calling China, 中国, you know, there are many other ways of referring China for Chinese people.
Okay.
And one example is, I find it very interesting, is to calling China 基建狂魔.
激将狂魔.
基建狂魔 meaning infrastructure maniac.
Infrastructural maniac.
Yeah, because, you know, China's been building a lot of projects. Roads, railway, airports, different stations, and more infrastructure.
Interesting. I've never heard this name before. But
Really?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, you can see infrastructure projects all over China over the past several decades. And then people are starting to have this name for China as 基建狂魔, the maniac who builds infrastructure everywhere.
I hear a bit of cynicism in that because I think from a local level, as people, there's a lot of things that are under construction because there's always work going on, and at our level sometimes that construction can impede, sometimes whenever if you're trying to get from point A to point B and there's construction, it might take a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, there are pros and cons about having, projects going on locally. Well, but I think in the long run, it actually helps to our life to be more convenient. Last year or the year before, my hometown are finally connected to the high-speed railway network in China.
Oh, that must be nice.
Yeah, we used to drive 8 hours. It's an 8-hour drive from Beijing to my hometown, or you need to take a 10-hour train, the oldest train.
Yeah, those old green trains,
yeah,
right?
the slow train.
Took
but
now, weeks to get home.
But now it's like only 2 hours. I can go back to my hometown back and forth over the weekend, which is hallelujah.
Yeah, that is amazing. I think that's kind of how I feel about Amtrak. Amtrak is it's gotten better over the years. I think that green train that we were just talking about, that used to be Amtrak because they didn't have a whole lot of routes. But now you can pretty much go to a lot of different cities in the U.S. And so I think infrastructure is huge.
And today, that's the topic. How to say infrastructure in Chinese?
不知道.
Well, it's 基础设施.
基础
设施.
设施.
Well, 基础 means basic.
Okay.
设施 means facilities.
Basic facilities.
Yes, you need in your daily life. And there is also a simpler way of saying infrastructure in Chinese, which is 基建.
基建. I like that one.
Shorter term for 基础设施.
Okay.
But now, as usual, we'll have a small dialogue about 基础设施 or 基建.
这里的变化也太大了。
是啊，30年以前这里都是平房，现在放眼望去，到处都是高楼大厦。
还记得小时候我们总是坐长途大巴去市中心玩吗？去一趟得花2个多小时。
当然记得，现在海底隧道建成了，开车只要20分钟。
And yet, that's our dialogue. What do you think about it, Tony?
Well, I heard a colleague there that I recognize, so that's kind of cool. But I guess we'll see when I try to voice it.
We'll break it down sentence by sentence. The first one, 这里的变化也太大了.
That's so much has changed here. Yeah, so 这里, I think that's here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then the is normally indicating like possession. So like here's place. So 这里的变化, I think this 变化 means to change, right?
Yes, 变化.
And then isn't that normally like also or?
Yeah, but I think in this case, it doesn't really have the also or to meaning, but it's kind of an exclamation.
Okay.
That the person is trying to say. It sort of amplify the 太大 after it.
太大了 is like too big. So the here's change is too big.
Yeah. And then 是啊，30年以前这里都是平房，现在放眼望去，到处都是高楼大厦。
That's, I know, 3 decades ago, all you could see were single-story houses, but skyscrapers are everywhere now. So, 是啊, this is like an agreement sound, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like 对, right? And then 30年以前. So, 30 is is that 30?
Yeah, 30.
And then 年 is year. 以前, I think that's like ago.
Yeah, 以前.
Okay. And then 这里 is here. And then 都是平方. So 都 isn't that's all, right?
Yeah.
And then 是, I think this is like kind of like is. And then 平方, I think that's those houses that are just one level, right?
平房.
Okay. 现在 is now. And then 放眼
望去.
放眼望去, I think like everywhere you see, right?
Yeah.
And then 到处, this 到处 is everywhere.
到处.
到处 is everywhere. And then 都是, I think this is also saying, is this all?
Yeah, all is.
All
都是.
is. And then 高楼大厦. So 高楼大厦, this is an expression. I think this means like tall buildings, right?
Yeah, skyscrapers. 高楼, tall buildings. 大厦 is the skyscrapers. 高楼大厦, referring to tall buildings and skyscrapers.
大 sounds like it's big, and then 厦 means like it's bright.
厦 is also like tall buildings as well. Like a lot of the names for really tall office buildings would have 大厦 sometimes.
Okay.
Certain 大厦. And 平房, well, this sentence actually kind of resonate with me thinking back of my life 20, 30 years ago. You know, my grandparents used to live in 平房, the one-story houses. You can still see them in downtown Beijing around the Hutong area. And they will have a small yard in front of the 平房. But then gradually people moved into buildings with, first of all, 5, 6 stories tall buildings.
Yeah.
And then now people are living like skyscrapers, like 20 stories.
Yeah. Those are a little bit better in terms of, quality and the view, of course.
Yeah, but like I think people's idea of having a better life also changes. Like for my grandparents, 住楼房, living in apartments, are considered that you have a good life, you're well fed, you have a good income, maybe a good job. But then now I think people looking back at the houses, the villas, are the ideal, and you've made it kind of a label to be able to live in one of the houses. And it's called 别墅.
别墅.
Yes, it's like the villas, the nice houses, and have a yard in the front or in the back.
Because everyone moved to these tall buildings, and they live around so many other people, and they realize, it's noisy. So then they want to go back.
Yeah, I'm really curious about this, Tony. What's your take on living in houses or in apartments?
Well, I lived in both, and houses are definitely where I see myself living for the rest of my life. Apartments are not my thing.
Really?
No.
Even though houses involve so much work?
I love the work. I grew up doing the work, so for me, I'm used to it. And it's just the trade-off is obviously silence, and you have your own space, and it's yours. It's something that you feel that it's connected to you in a way, and it's something that you can pass down to your children. And yeah, there's a certain attachment to a home. It's different. But when you have an apartment, it's not. It's just you're just kind of leasing it. Normally, it belongs to somebody else, and then if there's a problem, you just call a number, and somebody else has to deal with it when they have time to deal with it.
And that's not your problem anymore. And that's the magic of living in apartments.
It's not entirely your place. It feels like it still belongs to a certain community, and they have a say in what you can do with that structure. And for me, so I like to build things with my hands and break a wall down and install a new room or a bathroom or something. You can't really do that in an apartment because it's their structure and you have to kind of go by their rules, so to speak.
Yeah, I can see the perks living in houses, but I'm more of an apartment person. I love living in 楼房.
楼房 is apartment.
Well, different apartment has different names. Sometimes it's called 公寓.
公寓, yeah.
In Chinese, 公寓 has a different meaning than apartment. As you said, 公寓 are mostly leased, and you can have very good services, can be expensive, but they are maintained well. But what I'm referring to is like 楼房, it's that I can buy that apartment. I can own that apartment. It's my space. But it's still in a building.
Yeah, you don't choose your neighbors.
You don't have your space, right?
Right,
Yeah, I can't choose my
your
neighbors.
So if you have a lot of noisy people above you or beside you, you have no control over that.
Or maybe I didn't spend enough time in houses to know the beauty of living in them.
If you didn't grow up there, then you can't understand. It's different.
Yeah, we got a little carried away over here.
Yeah.
But back to the dialogue. 还记得小时候，我们总是坐长途大巴去市中心玩吗？
So this is, do you remember we always took that long distance bus to go downtown when we were kids? So 还记得, right? So 还, this is like still.
Yeah. 记得.
And then 记得 is remember. And then 小时候.
小时候.
小时候. I think this is 小 looks like it's small. And then 时候, isn't that like before or like a time?
A time.
So it's like maybe during childhood, yeah?
Yeah, when we were little.
Okay. 我们 is we. And then 总是, this is always. And then 做, I think that's like do or take or...
Take, yeah.
Yeah, 长途, I think this is the long distance, and then 大巴, I think that's the bus, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then 去 is to go, and then 市中心,
市中心.
市中心, I think that's the downtown.
Yeah.
And then 玩, I think that's to like play, right?
Yeah, hang around. Yeah. Talking about 小时候, it reminds me of a song in Chinese, actually.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a popular song title.
The lyrics goes as 小时候妈妈对我讲大海就是我故乡. It's like when I was little, my mom told me that our hometown is by the ocean. I'm not really sure. But it's a very famous song in Chinese, a very old song as well. I think it can help you remember the meaning of 小时候 as a child.
Okay.
Yeah. And then 去一趟得花2个多小时.
This is, it took us more than 2 hours to get there. So 去, I think this is go, right? And 一趟, this is
one-way trip.
Okay, so one way. And then 得, this is interesting. This means need.
Kind of need or have to.
So 需要 is also need, right? So is that interchangeable here?
Yeah, it can be interchangeable, but I think the day also have the have to meaning that you don't really have a choice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then 花, I think this is like spend.
花.
And then 两个 is 2. And then 多, I think, is that more?
Yeah,
or?
more than 2 hours.
Okay.
2个多小时.
And then 小时, I think is this hour?
Yes. And then 当然记得.
This is yes, I do. So 当然, this is like of course.
Yeah.
And then 记得, I think that's remember, right?
Yeah, of course I remember.
Okay.
现在海底隧道建成了，开车只要20分钟。
Okay, so this is, but now thanks to this underwater tunnel, it takes only 20 minutes to drive there. So 现在 is now, and then 海底, I think this 海底 means like underwater.
Yeah, 海底. Well, in this case, 海 also meaning sea, under the sea. Or maybe they're living by the sea. It's a port city.
All right.
Yeah, 海底.
And then 隧道.
隧道.
隧道. This is a tunnel.
Yeah.
And then 建成了. So 建成 means like built. Right?
建成's finished building. 成 meaning finished or completed. And 建 is built or construction.
Okay. So 开车.
开车.
开车. This is drive. And then 只要. Is this also takes or need or?
Only need.
Only need.
Yeah.
开车需要.
Yeah.
20, that's 20. And then 分钟 is minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I could say 需要 here, right?
Yeah, but I think here what the speaker is trying to stress is that the time has been shortened substantially. So 只要 is like only
Only,
takes.
huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So 只要 is only, 需要 is need. So the 要 is important here. And yeah, with the difference in the two, 只 and 需, it implies necessity, but just, yeah, only and need.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And do you feel confident to read out the dialogue?
Can try. 这里的变化也太大了。
是啊，30年以前这里都是平房，现在放眼望去，到处都是高楼大厦。
还记得小时候，我们总是坐长途大巴去市中心玩吗？去一趟得花2个多小时。
当然记得，现在海底隧道建成了，开车只要20分钟。You're listening to Takeaway Chinese with myself, Feifei and Tony. We'd love to hear from you. You can send us your thoughts via email to learnchinese@cri.com.cn. And for more fun Chinese learning, you can also follow us on Facebook by searching Learn Chinese to watch many fun videos and live streams. And coming up next, let's learn more about infrastructure, 基础建设 or 基建. Don't go away, so you'll take some Chinese away. Welcome back to Takeaway Chinese. I'm Feifei, joined by Tony, Reed, my old friend, as usual. Yeah, we're talking about infrastructure, Tony, and the dialogue actually resonates with me a lot. Simply because, yeah, I've been through every part what the dialogue described.
Yeah.
Like my hometown used to have a lot of 平房, the one-story buildings.
One-story buildings, yeah.
And now we're having skyscrapers, tall buildings.
高楼大厦.
高楼大厦, yes.
Okay.
And also for my hometown, if we want to move around the city, before you were taking bikes or buses and takes hours and hours and hours. And if you want to travel to Beijing, that's a 10-hour train, slow train, or 8-hour drive. But now we can take the high-speed railway that only needs 2 hours.
Wow.
只要2个小时.
2个小时?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a pleasant trip. It's fast and smooth. And everybody loves it. And I also saw my friend who lives in a little far away from the city central. And before he needs to take the coach, that would take him 1 or 2 hours to get into our city center in my hometown. But now by the high-speed railway, it only needs 20 minutes. And then sometimes he buy tickets to buy Starbucks in our city center and then go back home within 40 minutes to enjoy his Starbucks. I think that's the charming and also the perks of infrastructures that I can see in my daily life.
Yeah, I think the stark contrast, right? When you grew up there, these services weren't available. But now that they are, then it's kind of cool. You can play with it. As you mentioned, just go out there, buy something trivial, and then come back, right? So I haven't heard too many people doing that, but I think it's kind of cool to have that luxury. Yeah, back home in the States, it's just a little bit different. I mean, you need a vehicle to get around most places. And public transportation, I mean, it's there if you're in a city that has a certain amount of population.
Like New York.
Yeah. Well, not as big as New York. I mean, there's smaller towns that have public transportation, but the subway system, it's different or high-speed rail. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we have Amtrak, but there's just a lot of processes to develop it, because right now Amtrak is pretty good, but there are other areas in the country that need upgrading, but the process for that upgrading can be a bit complicated.
Yeah, it's like people need to sort of negotiate.
There's just so many different levels. I think that sometimes individuals, how do you say individuals in Chinese?
个人.
个人. So the individual level, people will need to request or want something done. For example, if they want a certain area of the community for growing vegetables, right? And then they will need to take that up with probably a certain organization. And how do you say organization in Chinese?
机构.
机构. Okay. And then from there, they need to go to probably a municipal level where they need to talk to the city and see if there's some funding that can come from there. Or maybe the organization can match whatever the city is able to provide. So the municipal level.
That's 市级.
市级.
The city level.
And then from there, it can sometimes go up to, if the funding is not enough, then maybe they need to talk to the state.
And that's 州政府.
州政府.
The state government.
Yeah. And if it's something that's really big, for example, like maybe an airport or something like that, then they may need to even reach out to the federal government. And so, as you can tell, this is a process that takes time. And if there's a break in the chain, then it's going to slow things down even more. And so you may have to operate with less funding. And so it's just, it's really different.
Yeah, it's a different system here in China. Well, I guess on some level, the system here sometimes can be more efficient when it comes to we have an idea and we have this need and we need to get it done.
I mean the government, right?
Yeah.
So it starts the other way, right?
Yeah,
The government says we do this, and then all the other chains in the link, they just respond.
Yeah, you can appeal, of course, if you have complaints. If, for example, if that station is built very close to my building, I can complain and appeal to the government, and they can move that station around, but that station will be built somewhere in the city. In China, we have a saying about building infrastructure or roads. It's 想致富先修路. If you want to get rich, you need to build roads first. And that's why for many places, especially were really poor before in China. If we want to, for example, have a poverty alleviation programs in that place, or I want to have more industries to be situated in that place, we need to have roads or some sort of transport to be better connected.
Right.
And so you are seeing a lot of roads being built all over China, sometimes crazy bridges, just sort of like connecting to mountains in Guizhou. And that happens because a lot of the places just don't have a very good transport system.
Yeah, and people could lose their lives trying to get from one city to another.
When we went to Tibet, there is a place called Linzhi. And it's a very beautiful place. kind of warm and very beautiful. Some people call it a small Switzerland, 小瑞士. It doesn't really have a very good transport, and it's a very mountainous area.
And the weather changes very quickly.
Yeah, dramatically. And I've seen videos, and I've also heard people talking about how do they transport between different towns. Is that they have to climb up a mountain and go down again, and sometimes it rains, sometimes landslides happens on those mountains. You can lose your life just simply trying to get to another town. But now they have roads, they have expressways, 公路, 高速, they have 高铁, high-speed railway as well, and there are a lot of tunnels along that line because it's just so many mountains. But it's faster, it's more convenient for people in Linzhi, and I'm really impressed with that trip, that time, and I'm seeing these changes brought by 基建, brought by infrastructure.
基建 generally 基建非常方便.
Yeah. And we hope we can have more infrastructures and also better infrastructures in our life and in many parts of the world as well.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the end of today's Takeaway Chinese. I'm Fei Fei with Tony Reid here in the studio. For more episodes of the show, you can visit our website at radio.cgtn.com and go to the column podcast. You can listen to the show and read the script there.
Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and much more. Just search for Takeaway Chinese, and don't forget to leave your comments, questions, and ratings.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
再见.